Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on the expenses items on our spreadsheet, and they're going to be directly related to your personal percentages that you put in your percentages worksheet last week. So you're going to be focusing on this column right here on your percentages worksheet. So if you need to pull that up at any point, feel free to do so. You're basically just going to be putting in, like, all right, for home, whatever percentage you chose for home, that's the item that's going to go in. Be careful, a couple of you guys, when you did your budget spreadsheet. I left comments on your percentages worksheet, rather. I left comments for some of you guys that you incorrectly did the worksheet where your percentages did not total 100%, where many of you had it go over 100%, but you can't spend more than 100% of your money. And some of you had less than 100%, and then what happens to the other pieces of that money? So anyway, just double check those items. I left a comment on your percentages worksheet. Just double check that and fix what you need to fix. All right. So for me, for my budget worksheet, I'm going to be using Mr. K's column because that's unique to me. You, on the other hand, will be using your percentages. So mine will be different than yours in a lot of cases. All right, so let's go back to our budget worksheet. Let me zoom in a bit so we can see what's going on. All right, we've done our income already. I left this associated with what I did in third period, so some of the numbers may be different on the flexible. Let me change this to money because I know that's where we left off. There we go. Okay, so under fixed expenses, flexible expenses and luxury expenses, all our expenses, we're going to be doing the same calculation over and over and over again. It's just going to have the individual percentage that we chose before applied to that row. So, for instance, here for home fixed expenses, and I'm going to be spending a little bit more time on these early ones because it's important to understand where it's coming from. After that, it's pretty much just going to be copy and paste of the same exact things over and over again. Just the percentage will change each time, the multiplier. So, for fixed expense, according to my worksheet, pulling that up again one more time. According to my worksheet, I am spending 29% of my income, 29% of my budget is going to be put towards my home, right? Yours will be different, or maybe it's the same, but it'll be based on your column. Okay, so I'll reference this for the first couple, but it's important that you will be basing yours off of your column and not mine necessarily, unless you had perfectly the same, in which case that was lazy. But in any case, mine will be based on my column. Yours should be based on your column. So mine is 29%. So here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be creating a calculator again right here that's based off of those percentages that I created. So anytime I create a calculator, I have to start with this symbol, an equal sign, right? That's telling the spreadsheet that I'm about to create a calculator. So right now, if I wanted to do 29% of my budget, okay, I have to be careful here. A mistake that many people make when they say like 29% of my budget, for instance, 29% of my budget. A lot of people make the mistake of taking 29% of their gross income, right? What does that mean? Gross income is the stuff that you have before taxes. Okay, it's the equivalent of making this mistake, right? I make 15 bucks an hour. I worked 10 hours this week. I have 150 bucks. So based on that 150 bucks, I'm going to figure out what I can spend that money on this week. But here's the problem. Once I get that paycheck, I don't have $150. I have significantly less than that because of taxes, right? So gross income is before government comes in and takes that big old gross bite out of your paycheck. Net income is what's left over after that chunk has been taken out. And it's important to distinguish between the two because when I'm doing my budget, I want to already have the taxes taken out, right? And so when I'm taking 29%, I'm only taking 29% of the money I can actually spend. Because if I did not, and I divided up my entire chunks, went through the 100% of my income, and then taxes got taken out, I would always be behind the eight ball as far as like I would always have less money than I thought, okay? That's an important distinction. So even right now, as you're working your part-time jobs and stuff, when you're figuring out like, hey, I can afford to, like, I don't know, go on a beach vacation with my friends, maybe on winter break, and we're planning that out, and you're like, okay, I make like $200 a paycheck or something like that. Okay, is that after taxes or before? Because once tax takes the chunk out, you're going to have less money than what you originally thought. And that's why it's important to always base it on net income, right? Budgets should be based on net income, the money you actually will have deposited into your account or have in hand, whatever it might be. That's the money you have to spend. Taxes are its own thing that happens. Okay, so for this calculation for my home, mine is 29%, yours may be different. Okay, so for home, as my calculator, I'm going to base that on net income. So I click on the square. I do not put in the number. Okay, I click on the square because this square may change based on how my income changes, right? Because for right now, my placeholder for my fixed income is 60 grand, right? But what happens if that changes? Maybe I get a raise or something like that, or maybe you have a career that has a completely different income. So maybe you make a lot more than 60,000, so you don't want to base your budget on something that you're going to be making more of, or maybe you make less. Okay, in either case, I'm going to take 29% of this number, and so the way I do that, and we learned this earlier in the year, is I'm going to multiply by the decimal version of that percentage. So multiplication is this asterisk symbol. That's Shift 8 on your computers, on your keyboards. But when I multiply by 29%, again, 29% is unique to mine. Your percentage may be different. But 29% in decimal form, I move the decimal twice, and that's going to make it 0.29. A 0.29 multiplication represents taking 29% of whatever value I multiplied by. I hit enter, and that automatically calculates what 29% of my net income after taxes. That tells me what percent or what value I'm going to have left over on the other side. Again, yours might be different, okay, depending on what your percentage is. So again, going back to this worksheet we turned in last week, your percentage for your home budget will likely be different than mine, right? And so your result here may be different, okay? So as you are filling out your budget spreadsheet, make sure that in your calculation up here, that your percentage matches what you have on your worksheet. Also assuming that your worksheet was done correctly. If you had an error in there, like maybe you didn't have the correct percentages, just go back, fix that, and then whatever new percent you may or may not have there, put that item in there. Okay, again, the decimal version. All right. So now that I have, this is what this column kind of represents here, what I have during the whole year. Okay, again, a difficult thing to keep track of if you're trying to keep track of 365 days worth of expenses. But for my fixed expenses, my fixed budget right here, 29% of my income is going to go towards my house. That calculated out to be just shy of $14,000. Again, yours may be different. So how do I figure out what I'm going to be spending in the month of January? Okay, we did this calculation the other day when we did this with fixed income. The simple solution here is to just take that total amount over the course of a year and divide it by 12. Why 12? Because 12 represents 12 months. So if I take this, again, I'm going to be doing another calculator. So I'm going to start with equal sign. But now it's going to be based off this amount, the newly calculated amount, so that as I click on that box, now I'm going to take that item and divide it by 12. And the division, again, is that backward slash sign. 12 is just 12. Nothing's exciting there. And when I hit enter, that tells me what in the month of January I can afford for my house. Okay, based on 29% income. All right. So again, your number may be different for now, a couple of reasons. First off, because your income may be different, maybe these numbers change a bit. I'll show a demonstration of that in a second. Or two, maybe your percentage is different. And so a larger chunk maybe goes towards your home, or maybe a smaller chunk goes towards your home. In either case, you will likely have different numbers here. Probably definitely have different numbers there. So we went through a little bit of this yesterday, but just to explain it again for this first example, if I wanted to stretch that same calculation out through each month, okay, because this is fixed, right, it should match with each month. Right, so February should match exactly what January is, but watch what happens. If I take this bold box in the lower right-hand corner, click and hold and drag that to the next month, why did it not match? Okay, so if I click on that box to double check the formula, you'll notice up here that it says C12 divided by 12. C12 again represents a box. You'll see it actually highlight that box. And here's the problem. It's no longer taking that number and dividing by 12. It's moved over a box. Why? Because I clicked and dragged the calculator over it. The calculator wants to shift with me. Okay. So how do I keep it from doing that? So let's get rid of that box. So how do I keep it from sliding that calculator over? I go back into this box right here, okay, my January amount that we created that calculator for. If I go back into the formula bar up here, all right, up there on that little formula bar that you can type directly into. Again, we did this with the fixed income. We're going to do the same thing here. I want to put a $sign next to the B and then next to that 12 that's right next to it. Okay, so again, your formula should look like this, right? Now that I've inputted those $signs in there, the $signs, that refers to a language element within the spreadsheet. It's literally telling the spreadsheet to lock in that square. So that as I click and drag a calculator, instead of wanting to slide the calculator over with it, it's going to lock it in place so that as I drag this calculator over, it's always dividing that same box by 12. Okay. So here, now that it has that $sign in front, you'll notice that nothing actually happened to the box. Like it didn't change the value at all of this. But now when I take that bold box right there, click and drag it all the way through, well, just to February so we can see it. You'll see it. It copies and pastes it. So well done. So just make sure you drag it all the way through December, and they should all be the same. In my case, 29% of my budget. And if I went through the trouble of adding up each of these months together, I should get back to that total because it just divided it by 12. And now I have 12 different columns of the same item. All right. So that's 29%. Again, yours may be different. So you may have different values here. Now, again, just to do this demonstration, the power of this spreadsheet, if I were to change the income that I made, maybe I got a raise and I'm now making $65,000 per year. Again, if I had to change every single one of these boxes, none of the calculations in and of themselves would be terribly complicated, but watch what it does all at once. If I take this and I change it to $65,000, literally everything on the spreadsheet automatically adjusts to that amount. I can afford more for my house, tells me all the taxes, tells me my net incomes for each month. All that stuff changes. Okay, let me change it back to 60,000 again. That'll be just our baseline amount. Great. Okay, so we're going to end up doing the same process, but with a different percentage now. So now let's apply this to vehicles. Okay, I'll explain why we have this gap of a row between them at a later time. But for right now, we're just going to go through each of these expense items and put in the percentages. So for vehicles, let me go back to my personal budgeting spreadsheet. Okay, again, for my personal budget, my family spends 10% of our income on our vehicles. Yours maybe be different. Okay, maybe it's the same, which is fine. Okay, but whatever percentage you have here for your vehicles, assuming you did the worksheet correctly, that's what percentage you're going to put into the spreadsheet. Mine was 10%. Yours may be the same, it may be different. But I'm going to do the same exact calculator that we did before, where I'm going to take my net income, the money I have after taxes, and apply that percentage to it. So again, I'm going to create a calculator. I start with equal sign. I'm going to take my net income again, which is still that square, and I'm going to multiply, shift 8 or that asterisk, now by 10%. Converting that to decimal form, move the decimal point twice. It's going to be 0.10 for me. For me. Again, your percentage may be different. You will apply your percentage here. I hit enter. That's what I can afford in a year for my vehicles. I'm going to do the same exact thing where I'm trying to figure out what I spend per month. So for this square right here, again, I create a calculator, equal sign. Now it's going to be, now you're going to see that it's suggesting other formulas. Ignore that for right now. Let's not try and overcomplicate things. But for right here, again, I'm going to base it off of this box right here. If I want to figure out what I can afford in the month of January, I'm going to take that item and divide it by 12. Division is that backslash, put in 12, enter. That's what I can afford in the month of January. Now, We experimented with this last time before. I can't just click and drag that all the way across to December because, again, it will want to move the calculator with that. I want to lock that box in place, so I got to click on this guy again. Look back into this formula bar up here in the top left. I want to put in $signs in front of the B and in front of that 14. That B14 just represents this highlighted box right here. So that's always locking in that item. Right? If I hit enter, nothing changed with the value. But now when I click on it in that bold box in the lower right-hand corner, if I click and drag, bring that all the way over to December, I should have the same total through each of those months. Okay, vehicles done. I've officially finished my fixed expenses. We're going to do the same process through flexible and through luxury expenses. It'll just be based on those percentage items. Just be careful. Really, it's the same thing over and over again. Just make sure that you're clicking on the right boxes and stuff. So for groceries, right, going back to my spreadsheet here, my percentage here was 12%. Converting that to decimal, it's 0.12. Yours may be different. Yours will be based off of your column. Mine's 12%. So again, create a calculator. I'm going to base this on, calculator based on net income times shift 8, 12% for me, that's 0.12. Hit enter. That's what I can afford in a year for my groceries, right? Even though these are flexible expenses, we're still going through this process because this is what we consider our planned budget, which may be different than what we actually spent. I'm going to, again, go more in depth into that statement on a future recording. For right now, this is going to be all like the same process. So if I want to figure out what I can afford in the month of January, same type of calculator where I take this box divided by 12. Again, I want to lock in that calculator. So I go into my formula bar and add those $signs in front of the letter and number. Hit enter. That's what I can afford in the month of January. Click and drag that item all the way through to December. Should have the same item in each month, even though it's flexible. That's on purpose. Yep. And done with groceries. Gasoline, you can kind of see where this is going. I'll just go ahead and finish up the worksheet as is for me. Be careful with these kinds of items. Some of you guys have decimal percentages, so this is worthy of also taking note. Again, the process is the same for converting a percentage into a decimal. I still move the decimal point twice. So 5.5%. If I move it twice, my new decimal is now 0.055. So this one will happen to have 3 digits in it, but just be aware of that, worthy of checking out. Again, yours might be different anyway, so just be aware. So mine's 5.5%. Calculator is roughly the same anyway. Equals net income, again, not gross, times shift 8. For me, 5.5%. In decimal form, that's 0.055. Okay, that represents the 5.5%. Again, I can find that just by moving the decimal point twice. Hit enter. That's what I can afford in a year for gasoline and car maintenance. Process is the same. Equals this box divided by 12. I lock in that calculator with the $signs for these ones when I'm dragging it through my calendar, so that when I click and drag through to December, I should get the locked in amount for each month. If you get different ones, just go back. Typically, the mistake is that you forgot the $sign. So that'll be a quick check that you can do as you're working through it. Great. Utilities and home maintenance, checking my values here. 8% is mine. Yours might be different. Okay, so 8%, create a calculator. Net income times 8% is 0.08. Enter. That's what I can afford in a year for utilities, home maintenance. Same process here. Take that same total amount for the year, divide it by 12. Lock in that calculator with my $signs. Enter. Drag it through December. And as you can see, it's just doing the same thing over and again. All right. Now you'll notice mine have $signs in here. Some of yours may be blank. It may just be regular numbers, may have decimals. I'll remind you that if you want to change it to a currency format, currency, again, putting it automatically into dollars and cents, automatically rounds everything for you. A quick way you can do that, because since we just finished fixed and flexible expenses, you could go through all your calculator stuff through all expenses, and then you could just do this, where I can click and highlight all this stuff. And I didn't go through all of it on purpose, but if I wanted to change all that to format to dollars and cents, up here in the top menu bar, there's the $, format as currency. You can click on that. It will automatically shift everything into dollars and cents. So again, that's how that can be done. All right, let me keep going. I'm going to finish up luxury expenses right now. It's going to be the same thing over and again. So here we go. All right, let me zoom out a bit. You can kind of see what's happening. I just want to make sure I don't have to lose track of where that net income is. All right, so same process right here, equals net income times, oh, forgot to check my percentage. Fast food restaurant for me is 5%. That would be 0.05 in decimal form. Yours may be different. So 0.05, that one's good. For my calendar, divided by 12 equals that box divided by 12. Just make sure I add in my $signs before the letter and before the number. Drag it through December. There we go. Shopping for me, back to my worksheet, 5%. The next few categories are going to be 5%. Just be careful about it. Yours may be different. So I'm on shopping. For me, that's 5%. Equals, so I'm going to end up with some same numbers here. That should be a nice little sanity check for you. If you do have similar percentages, you should have matching rows. Okay, but net income still times 0.05%. Great. Per month, divide that item by 12. Lock in the calculator with the $signs. Drag it through December. Because they both have the same percentage, it makes sense that these guys right here all match row to row. That's okay. The same thing is actually going to happen with my subscriptions and my vacation, because both of these guys for me are all 5%, right? But just go through it. Equals net income times 5%, or 0.05, being the decimal form, equals that box divided by 12. Right, lock in the calculator with the $signs. Drag it through December. Great. Vacation, same thing. Mine's 5%. Yours may be different. Net income times my decimal version, 0.05 is 5%. And divide by 12 for the month by month. Lock in the calculator with the $signs. Pretty repetitive. Now, gifts, donations, mine was different, finally. 10%. 10% of my income went towards gifts and donations. So in my calculator, net income times 10% is 0.10. So I'll finally get a different item here. This part's the same, divided by 12. Lock in with the $signs and drag through December. Great. So at this point, what we should have, again, if you need to format this to currency, you could have gone through all this. You might have like just decimals or regular numbers without the dollars or without it rounded. Quick thing you can do at this point, if you've gone through all of this already for the calculator, go back up here, highlight all this stuff, and notice I went a row below where gifts and donations were. That's on purpose, because again, we're going to make that part of our inputs for our budget and stuff like that. So you can format this all to currency. Up here in the top menu bar, you'll see that $sign. That means format as currency. If you click on that, it will automatically, anything that gets inputted in here. So I could put in like random numbers, like in this square right there. And you'll notice it automatically changes it into dollars and cents. We don't need that item. But anything that goes in those squares. If you do have questions at any point about how to undo that, maybe you accidentally did that to other boxes, I can show you how to undo that as well. But at this point, what we should have, we are done with our income section. We are now done with our expenses section. Fixed, flexible, and luxury. And these rows right here will represent our monthly budgets for each. Now, what items we end up putting in there may be different than those, but I'll walk through that stuff in a future video. For right now, we'll end it there. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on this savings section and that little calculator right there that will help us learn how long it will take before we achieve our goal. But for right now, I'll go ahead and end the recording right here. So that, all right, stopping recording.